Watkins! Sammy Watkins for the touchdown!
Pass rushers and the AFC West. That is our next summer episode coming up right now on the Fumblerooski podcast. I'm Adam Wright with CJ Medeiros. No Justin Tucker, but for a substitute, we have our very own Robert Shelley, also host of the Pesky Pole podcast, the Red Sox podcast. Go check it out. Robert, how are you doing today?
Hey, just so we're clear, it ain't a dead channel. We have 3 episodes up in a row. Put some respect on my name.
I never said anything about it being dead. You said it, not me. Sounds like someone already believes the inevitable.
I think I may need to talk to a lawyer before I answer any future questions about my podcast.
Anyway,
I'm doing very
live.
well.
We are recording right now.
I'm hanging in there. How are you boys?
I'm doing great.
Can't complain.
With a functional podcast that posts episodes every week. So, and we have working laptops over here.
Oh, come on now.
I'm sorry. I'm going off too much, but all right. This is going to be a great episode, guys, because we are in our player rankings. We have reached the defensive ends. So the way we kind of did it is more pass rushers because there's so many different positions that can get sacks. There are the interior defensive linemen like Aaron Donald. There are the outside linebackers like TJ Watt. And then there's the typical actual defensive ends like Brian Burns. So this is going to be a great episode, guys. But Robert, how about you kick us off with your number 5 pass rusher?
My number 5 pass rusher. So just for the people at home, I was brought into this episode about 10 minutes before it aired. So my list is a little bit frantic, has some research behind it, but this first pick, I'm going to go a little bit hometown bias here. We're going to go to Matt Judon. Amazing season out of him, especially last year. And I just think going into this year, he is going to be one of the top pass rushers in the NFL. 15.5 sacks last season by itself speaks for itself. Just an absolute monster on the defensive end. More of an outside linebacker, but definitely his job is just speed rush. You put him into pass coverage, you are probably smoking that good stuff.
There you go. It's not a bad pick.
I respect it. I do. There's going to be no Matt Judon slander over here, but for me, my number 5 from the Philadelphia Eagles, Hassan Reddick. Oh, man. His first season in Philly was a smashing success. This man, in fact, I believe it was their coach, Sirianni, who said he probably could have broken the sack record if he quit dropping Reddick into coverage. But even still, Reddick really only had 35 solo tackles, 49 combined. That's not great, but he made the most of it. 16 sacks. 6 of them. 16 of them. Sorry. My brain doesn't want to work. And 5, not 1, not 2, but 5 forced fumbles. I'm just saying, his sacks and forced fumbles speak for themselves. He's not a big tackle machine, but he is a really, really good playmaker.
All right, guys. Well, my number 5 is actually Brian Burns.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Brian Burns because he's been mentioned in our fan box. So that's a preview to that for the most underrated pass rushers in all of football. I don't only think that he's underrated. I also happen to believe that he's top 5 heading into this season. He's a guy who has consistently, since he's entered the league, been a 10 plus sack guy. He didn't always do it, but he's always had the potential to do that. And I think he's just due for a monster season, especially since the Panthers are getting better on both sides of the ball. That opens things up, and it takes away the double coverages so that he can actually have a clear lane to get to the quarterback this season. Also, he's playing in the the NFC South, which kind of does help, especially since it is the weakest it's been arguably in its history. So yeah, put me down for Brian Burns at 5.
I don't know about that one, Chief. At 5? I don't know about that one.
You want him earlier?
I want him higher.
Okay. I was thinking about it. He's underrated. And, I just think there are other guys who are better than him. This is going into next season, so.
Yeah.
Who's by the T right now?
That's me. Sorry.
It's right behind his house.
It really is.
It's actually literally right behind it. It's
yeah.
I didn't believe him, but then I was at his house and I was like, holy crap.
Yeah. Adam broke in. I didn't allow it, but he was good company nonetheless. So
I got him a birthday cake.
Oh, you did not.
No. I paid for his dinner at Cello's.
He did. I didn't ask him to, but he's just a good friend. Thank you, Adam, again.
I got you.
Which he is. He's a little weird, but
All right, just give me your number 4, Robert.
Number 4. I kind of went a little bit off the beaten path here for 2 reasons. Number 1, this guy isn't really considered an edge rusher, but he's still throughout his career, I believe he has. Some points he's been an end, some points he's been a tackle. And I get it. He's had a bad season last year, really bad season. But for one reason and one reason alone, for his name, I'm still putting him in the top 5. Aaron Donald. I'm still putting him in the top 5. I do not care. In my mind, Aaron Donald has always been an edge rusher. It's not really. He's been both, but I still consider him an edge rusher. And yes, 5 sacks last year, 11 games, bad season. In my opinion, he should have just hung him up after last year. Because the Rams are going to do absolutely nothing this year. They're in a completely stacked division. They're not going to be making the playoffs. They're not even going to be in contention for a wild card spot. It's looking really bad. So I'm just in the boat of retire, but I'm still going to give him the respect he deserves and put him at 4.
What's worse? Yeah, I'm sorry. Keep going.
You guys can completely disagree with that. The fans can disagree with that, and I'm completely fine with that. Just off of name and off of him being the second that 5-year time limit is up, he's in the Hall of Fame. I'm still giving it to him.
I don't doubt that he might still have it, but the problem is, number 1, he is getting up there in age. That's the obvious part.
He's 34 now? 34?
Yeah.
35?
Number 2, that team around him is falling apart. So he's not even going to.
He's only 32.
Mm-hmm.
It's falling apart. So he's not even going to get the looks to get open because he's going to get double teamed all the time.
Yeah.
The defense is falling apart. The offense is looking worse by the day. So that's going to make him exhausted. The defense is going to be on the field all the time.
Yeah.
So it's not looking good for him. So just for that reason, Aaron Donald is outside my top 5. If he was in a better situation, then he would certainly he would have my respect.
Yep.
But
and I don't blame you at all for keeping him outside the top 5. I do not blame it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, but that's fair enough. My number 4, all the way from Cleveland, it's Myles Garrett. Now, this man, what else is there to say? 60 tackles last season, and he tied his career high with 16 sacks. And on top of that, 4 passes knocked down at the line. I'm sorry, this guy is a monster. He's darn near unstoppable. And the only reason he's not higher is that he's got only 37 solo tackles, despite being an edge rusher and decent run stuffer. However, what I will give him credit for is 26 quarterback hits and a career high 18 tackles for loss last season. And for me, I don't care what team you're. I don't care if you're a fellow AFC North fan. He's not here, but Tucker. But you got to put Myles Garrett in your top 5.
I agree.
Terrible.
I think
Terrible.
Ryan, I completely agree. I think him in the top 5 is you can't not have him there.
Mm-hmm.
But my number 4, another guy who you cannot have outside your top 5, Micah Parsons. This is a guy who can literally do it all. Play in pass coverage, he can be off ball, and he can be a defensive end. And if you have a guy who can do it all, and you have the option to have him rush the passer, you do that. That is one of the most important statistics in all of defensive football, is racking up the sacks. Because once you get the sacks, then you can strip them and force fumbles. If you're even getting to them and they get the ball off right before, then there's the risk of an interception or just a bad throw. Like being a good edge rusher is important. And Micah Parsons is an expert at that. He's been doing it ever since he's gotten into the league in these past 2 seasons, and he's still young. So the sky is the limit for this guy. And another good thing that I really like about him on this Cowboys team this year is that it's a very well-rounded force this year. They're still a very good defense. They were top 3 in sacks this year, this past season. And on top of that, you have a very good offense behind that as well. So that that defense is going to stay fresh. He's not going to be double teamed because that whole front 7 is very good. So put me down for Micah Parsons. He is going to have a very good year.
I mean,
I hear you.
I'm not going to complain about that. I have some things to say, but I will refrain.
Why? You think he should be earlier too?
And no, I think Brian Burns should be above Micah Parsons. But, speaking of, that is my number 3 guy for all the right reasons that you said before. And the fact that he is only 25 years old. I am predicting that he's going to have a 15-plus sack season next year. And here's the thing. He's doing it on a defensive line that we're not calling stacked by any means. If anyone says that the Carolina Panthers defensive line is good, once again, they're in Denver on that good stuff. So he's still going to be able to put up 15 sacks. We're still getting double team most of the time because there's no other real threats around him. And he's still going to make it look completely effortless. And he's going to be 26 next year. He's still got 5 more years at this prime. And I think he's just going to dominate from here on then.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, I do not have Brian Burns in my top 5. Shame me if you will.
I need to know who your top 3 is because putting Myles Garrett at 4 is sacrilegious.
Hold on. Here we go.
No pun. Was that pun intended?
No.
Oh well, that's unfortunate.
You should
Anyway,
have just lied and say it was. That was beautiful.
So for me, my number 3 is actually Micah Parsons. Because he, 65 combined tackles, 13 and a half sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and he recovered all 3, got a defensive touchdown last year, but 26 QB hits. That man, what's scary? He's going to get even better because Mike McCarthy, their coach, said he's going to be putting on a wee bit of weight and then going up front and switching to edge rusher full time. But even still, he could do it all. He could drop back into coverage and knock down passes with the best of them. And he's a hard hitter. And I'm just saying the fact that he can do everything, to me at least, is just that. I mean, that's really what you want. And no disrespect to Myles Garrett, but the fact that Parsons can be a coverage threat, I think puts him a little bit higher.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I like Micah Parsons. I had him just 1 notch lower. But that's only because the other guys on this list are just the most badass pass rushers in all of football going into next year. And mine is TJ Watt at 3. Now, this guy, he had an injury-riddled 2022 season. There's no 2 ways about it. But are we just going to now forget the fact that the past 2 years before then, he was the league leader in sacks? And this guy just continued to get better and better and better from his rookie year? We're talking about the guy who had 22 and a half sacks. That's tied for the most in NFL history in a single season. And we're just going to forget about him because he got injured a little bit this past year? This guy is going to have a great year. And the Steelers as a team are improving, which I very, very am into the trickle-down effect. This guy is with the offense young and getting better. The defense will be well rested. On the other side, you have Alex Highsmith, who has just emerged as another superstar who will draw away a lot of that double coverage, which will open things up for him. I think he's going to have a great year this year. He's going to return to the brilliance that we all know that he's capable of.
All right, let me Let me bring you guys in real close right now. All right, can you hear me? Can you hear me well?
Incredible.
All right, I would like to formally apologize for leaving TJ Watt off my list.
Jesus Christ.
But Brian Burns gets the spot.
Let's just keep that between the two of us or the three of us. Thank you very much.
Are you kidding me? You just said it on an episode. My whole audience is going to hear that.
I will not take further questions at this time. Thank you.
All right, Bill Clinton.
Jesus Christ.
I kid.
Give me your note. Just give me your. We're at number 2, right? Here's all right. I was going to say this off air, but this is an idea that Costa gave me. We name our top 2, and then we dramatically pick our number 1 between those 2. Name your top 2 in no order. We'll go around the table so that we can kind of, because once you have the 2, then the 1 is almost spoiled because you can kind of, Yeah. You guys want to do that?
Sure.
Not particularly, but I'll go along with it.
Sure.
We'll just experiment with it. If it doesn't work, well, next year's episodes, we'll do it again. Or next week, we'll just not do it. But
Yeah,
I think this is, I just thought we'd try it. You guys want to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
So for my top 2, we're going with Nick Bosa and Myles Garrett.
All right. And then for my top 2, I am going to do TJ Watt and Nick Bosa.
Well, I thought we were just going to explain those 2 players, but
You didn't say that.
Yeah, you should have
we weren't just
specified
gonna
before
name
you
them
threw
and just
something
not
new in the
explain
middle of the
something.
episode, Adam.
All right. So you have So who do you have again?
Mine is Nick Bosa and Myles Garrett.
Nick Bosa and Myles Garrett.
I have Nick Bosa and TJ Watt.
I've got Nick Bosa and Myles Garrett. All right. And for my number 1 between these 2 is Myles Garrett. And Myles Garrett is a guy who has consistently been one of the best pass rushers in all of football. And then you add Danielle Hunter on the other side. You upgrade from last year with Jadeveon Clowney. That's going to open things up a lot more. And then you have the Cleveland Browns team, their offense that looks a lot better than it did last year. With Deshaun Watson in, Jesus.
Wait, I'm sorry, Adam. Did you say Hunter's on the Browns?
Excuse me. Yeah, I meant Jesus. Who's the? I misspoke.
Wait. You said no. He's on the Vikings.
There's a different. The other guy who they had.
Oh, Zadarius Smith.
Completely botched that one.
Zadarius Smith at least played for the Vikings for a little bit, so
Yeah, so that's what I just
mixed up your names. You're good.
I mixed up the
forgiven.
names. But yeah, you have him on the other side who is drawing away the double coverage, which is going to be more effective than when Jadeveon Clowney was here, because Clowney was getting on the older side. He was still kind of putting up numbers, but not nearly as good as Zadarius Smith right now. So you have those 2 guys. You have an offense that looks improved from last year that should have a very good bounce back year. It's all going to add up, and Myles Garrett is my number 1. The only reason I don't have Nick Bosa at number 1 is just because I think Myles Garrett's just going to have a better year. So yeah,
no, two reasons that you're wrong. All right, I get it. We're splitting hairs here between numbers 1 and 2, but if you're not putting the reigning, defending defensive player of the year and sack leader as your number 1 best edge rusher, I don't know what you're doing.
Amen.
That's all I got to say.
Yeah, well, Myles Garrett's due. And I think that he hasn't been in nearly as favorable a situation as Nick Bosa has been.
Yeah, of course.
Bosa has been on a great team with better coaching. And
that defensive culture started with Nick Bosa.
And a better offense. They've always had good defenses. I'm not saying that.
No. We're not just going to fly past that without fact checking it. Please continue. I'll be back in 2 minutes with the fact check on that.
I'm not saying that Nick Bosa isn't. We're literally splitting hairs, as you said. But
All
the
right.
49ers just have always had a better situation around Nick Bosa. And that's not to knock Nick Bosa. He's in a good situation and he's made the most of it. But Myles Garrett has been putting up numbers too on a Browns team that has been very clearly dysfunctional. And they're now in a situation where they're going to look better. So the situation around him improves and Myles Garrett gets a lot better. I mean, he's due for a breakout year, as if he hasn't already.
Year. I was going to say
he's going to be. I think he's going to be even better. 16 sacks in back-to-back seasons, 12 and a half the year before. And that was in an unfavorable situation. Now that the offense is going to better, he's going to be more well rested. He has a better defensive end on the other side of him to draw more coverage. I mean, it's all a recipe for success, for the best season that he will ever have.
I see. Yes. Now, for me, my number one is Nick Bosa. My number two is TJ Watt. And one, I don't think you can put last season against him because even more so, I mean, I mentioned this with Michael Parsons, but TJ Watt also has that coverage factor where even though he only played 10 games, he still knocked away 5 passes and he still had 2 picks and a forced fumble while in coverage. So, I'm just saying that definitely works in his favor. But my number one is also Nick Bosa. Like Robert said, reigning defensive player of the year, 18.5 sacks last season, 19 tackles for loss, and are you ready? 48 quarterback hits. This guy is just a monster. He makes even the most elite of left tackles look silly. And for me, I just don't think it's that much of a contest. I mean, I get Garrett, I do, but I just think technique-wise and even situation-wise, I think Bosa is just better.
May I, if you don't mind?
Yes.
Yeah.
To go back on Adam's completely BS take, that they were always a great defensive team. 2015 point differential of minus 149. 2016 point differential of minus 171. 2017 point differential of minus 52. 2018, the last year before he was drafted, minus 93. 2019 plus 169 defensive ranks for points was 8th, yards allowed was 2nd. We're gonna skip the 2020 crappy COVID year. And
also he wasn't hurt in 2020, so that doesn't count anyway because your argument is that he literally started that culture.
Yep, 2021 60 plus 62 points differential, 9th in points allowed, 3rd in yards allowed, and 2020 and in 2022 give me a second, 173 points differential, 1st in points allowed, 1st in yards allowed. That happened because of Joey Bosa. Thank you very much. He will be the number one on this list.
You said Joey Bosa.
Yeah, Nick.
Same dude.
Not quite.
Listen, those first of all, those stats are a little misleading because you're looking at point differential. Where you had a bunch of
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Where you had a bunch of knuckleheads at quarterback. This was before Jimmy Garoppolo.
They had Jimmy Garoppolo, who was literally carried by the 49ers run game.
Yes, you're acting as if Jimmy Garoppolo didn't hop on the back and hold on for dear life as he's being taken away.
And I'm just saying,
I still think Jimmy Garoppolo is a much better quarterback than Nick Mullins or CJ Beathard.
Yeah, but I mean, I hear
they
you.
Were
actually,
they were a rebuilding team with nothing at the nothing at the quarterback.
But then why does
their
defense get better?
Nothing at the pass catcher position.
Hold on.
So they're not going to be able to put up the points to have good point difference.
2015, their defensive rank, right? 2015, their defensive rank, 18 in points allowed, 29th in yards. 2016, just the defense, 32nd in points allowed and 32nd in yards allowed. And in 2017, 25th in points allowed and 24th in yards allowed.
Yeah, I mean,
argue about the quarterback some more.
They had a few bad years, but
I'm waiting.
Listen, when you say culture, that implies that the team historically has not been very good. They've always been competitive. Just because there was that small little window.
When was the last time the Niners themselves were actually competitive? 2013?
2013 changed that. Was like the Kaepernick
2013.
days,
and Nick Bosa was drafted in 2018. So that's 5 years.
Right.
Okay. For context.
So in their entire existence,
shut up.
5 years they were irrelevant.
Shut up.
For 5 years they were irrelevant.
For
5 years they were irrelevant out of their entire existence, where they are among the league leaders all time in Super Bowls.
Okay, but
You
is
have
that not
two
just
of the
comparing
better-
apples
the
and
better
oranges?
quarterbacks
You're the one that was
in all
talking about
football.
Robert's stats,
No,
and yet you're referencing something that happened in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, let me just add this for context.
What?
Adam was on my show recently with the beautiful man himself, Brian Costin, and he said, I am paraphrasing a little bit, but he said that 2018 was too long ago for the Red Sox to have won a World Series, that we are hungry for another. That was 5 years ago.
Say that?
Yes, you did.
Brian said that.
No, you said that.
I didn't.
I
Say
cannot confirm or deny I was not there, folks.
You were not there. No.
I did not say that, but it was Brian who said, "Oh, it's been a long time. We haven't had a World Series parade since 2018." And I said, "Dude, that's only 4 years ago."
5 years.
Because it was 2019 when they were celebrating for the Patriots. That's what I was saying. You're completely messing up the viewpoints.
No, that was you who said that. I can guarantee it.
I guarantee I did not, because I do not believe in that mindset where it's like, oh, it's been so long since a World Series or a Super Bowl or a championship. Dude, it's only been 4 years since we last had a parade.
Yes. Okay.
Relax.
Getting back on topic. Right? You
haven't given your number one, by the way.
I told you it was Nick Bosa.
Yeah, he did.
And I told you were wrong because you don't go against the reigning defensive player of the year and sack leader.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't.
You go against that because we're going into 2023, not 22. We don't live in the past.
No, and then we got started on this whole thing because you said that the Niners always had a good defense. And I told you that for 5 years before Bosa was, or for 4 years, my apologies, before Bosa was drafted, their defense was either among the worst or the worst in the league. And then you tried to argue, oh, it's a quarterback. Oh, Nick Mullins was the problem. Yeah, no, the defense was trash too. Okay.
Yeah.
They were a rebuilding team for 5 years.
Yes.
They were
the
irrelevant.
Niners were the toilet paper
to say
of the
that they don't have it, they have a culture.
Nick Bosa, and it changed immediately.
It literally did. Nick Bosa was the second overall pick for a reason.
Yes.
To say they have a culture of bad defenses is just stupid.
I never said they had a culture.
They had a 5 year window where they weren't very good. The Patriots haven't been very good the past few years.
I said that Nick Bosa started a new culture of defense. He brought the defense back to there. The defense that they had been missing for years. He brought it back almost single-handedly.
It wasn't him alone. You have Fred Warner.
It was pretty much him
Aziz
alone.
Al-Shazir. You have some good players.
Was Al-Shazir even on the team in 2018?
Well, I'm talking about in this time frame where things have turned around. They've had some good pieces. I'm not saying Nick Bosa isn't the best player on that team.
But
100%.
Nick Bosa started that.
He literally did, yeah.
Sure.
All right. Move on.
Brought him back to relevance, but he didn't change the culture. They've always had a winning culture for the 49ers. They just
always
went off track for 5 years. But
also, are we just gonna ignore what happened before the Alex Smith thing? Like they were not very good. In the mid 2000s. Let's not pretend they were.
Mid 2000s.
Right, but that's 2005 until 2013. They were a pretty solid team. I mean, they weren't among the best. They were nowhere near what they were.
Adam, 2005 4-12, 2006 7-9, 2007 5-11, 2008 7-9, 2009 8-8, 2010 6-10, and then they finally got on the right track from 2011 to 2013-14.
All right.
I mean, I'm just saying you can't say always because you were referencing the 80s and 90s, and yet in the 2000s they've been laughable.
In the 2000s they've been a below average team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just mentioning their existence in general. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, and then in that case you can also bring up the Cowboys, but whatever. And we're not doing that.
But the Cowboys have done jack squat.
And neither the Niners. I mean, they've been to 2 Super Bowls and lost both.
Yes.
Salute Jimmy Garoppolo. That's better than the Cowboys, but
salute Jimmy Garoppolo. That's my boy.
Ah, fine.
Thank you.
We'll salute.
I'll pass. All
Former
right.
Patriot, I have the respect.
All right.
Former
That's the
Patriot,
end
you
of our
better give
top.
him the respect.
That's the end of our top 5 pass rushers. Up next, we have the AFC West preview. We're going to tell you exactly how the AFC West is going to pan out, where each team fits in this division. That's next. This is the Fumblerooski podcast.
Here's Edelman broken up, and the pass is no sign yet. Edelman comes down with a football. They're saying it's a catch. This is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Swings it way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown.
Welcome back to the Fumblerooski podcast. Adam Wright, CJ Medeiros, Robert Shelley with you tonight. So we are on to the AFC West in our division previews. And this is going to be certainly an interesting division because I just can't tell who exactly is going to win this division. So for me, I have the Raiders going last. Unless they surprise everyone, that looks like the weakest team, and they got even weaker this year. Then I think the Chargers are a middling team that'll be, towards the middle of the pack because their coaching just hasn't been figured out. Talent wise, they have everything they need, but they just don't have. I guess their run defense could be a little better. The way I see it. Kansas City, I think they're a safe bet to at least be competitive. I think Patrick Mahomes has earned that respect to at least be a contending team, competitive wise, not championship contention. The wild card here is the Denver Broncos. It's weird because they finished last. They were 5-12, and they looked awful, but they improved in the areas that they needed to fix. So they worked on their offensive line, which was injury riddled and also shorthanded. They replaced their head coach, which is huge. They actually cleaned house completely. They had a absolute turnover in the coaching. Russell Wilson, before this past year, has been a perennial Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. So there's no reason to believe that he can't bounce back from what he just did. But there's still a wild card because how do you get that bad? You have a roster like you did. You have Russell Wilson leading the charge.
Top 7 defense.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, say what you want about Nathaniel Hackett. He had a lot of hype going into this season because of what he did as an offensive coordinator with Aaron Rodgers. 3 straight 13-3 seasons. So bringing in Sean Payton was huge. And I want to believe that they're going to be competitive. And I have a hard time picking the Chiefs being division champions. But I also have a hard time picking the Broncos. So this is the little dilemma we're in here. I think I might lean slightly, and this is going to become a hot take. I'm going to take the Denver Broncos to win this division. They have the talent. And it looks like they fixed the coaching and they fixed the offensive line. So the Broncos, I'm taking them. And the Chiefs will be the runner-up. Chargers 3. And put Vegas in last. That's the only slam dunk here. But yeah.
May I, CJ?
Yeah, no, go right ahead.
Okay, there's only one thing that you and I agree on right there, Adam, and it's that the Raiders will finish last. I'm expecting 4 to 5 wins and a Devontae Adams trade halfway through the season. That is my official prediction for them. The thing with the Broncos, the only way they're even coming close to winning that division. Oh, that's my bad. I'm sorry. Don't give me that look. The only way they're winning that division is if Jarrett Stidham takes the reins and somehow leads his team to victory. Russell Wilson is done. He's washed. He's gone. I'm sorry. There's you can tell me all you want about him being under single back under center versus him in shotgun, and he's better in shotgun and blah 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 and all this BS. I don't care. Quarterback's the guy who mainly has the ball. He's not going to give you anyway. I'm really hoping that forgive me if I'm saying his name. Is it Javonte Williams? Williams. I'm really hoping he can come back from his torn ACL and he can come kick ass with this team. But in terms of just having Russell Wilson in 2023, 2024 as your starting quarterback, they're getting a maximum of 8 wins. The 2 teams that are making the playoffs is the Chargers, where they will go to the wild card and they will lose, as always, and the Kansas City Chiefs, who will make another Super Bowl run this year and win this division easily.
I don't think easily with that.
Easily.
That. Not easily.
Easily.
I just don't. Also, CJ, you're muted. I don't think easily because this team has. It's one thing if you're able to do with less. You know, I give Patrick Mahomes lots of credit for that. I mean, that was an incredible division victory, and also, you know, Super Bowl victory, MVP, all the whole 9 yards there. But like, this is bottom of the barrel. Like, yeah, I believe that they're going to make the playoffs, but I just I'm hesitant to pick them as the division champions. I understand if you believe it, but if they do, they'll barely eke it out, because I think the Chargers are going to be competitive this year. They will, despite their coaching issues, they're still going to be competitive. And the Broncos just listen. It's when you say washed, it implies that he no longer has the physical abilities. This really looks like it's all fundamental issues with him. And it really comes down to the coaching. Listen, in the three games where after Nathaniel Hackett was fired, Russell Wilson had 9 total touchdowns to, I believe, 2 interceptions. He looked like his old self in those last 3 games. And I believe they were facing some pretty good competition. I don't have it in front of me right now, but he actually looked like his old self in those 3 games. I know he had 9 total touchdowns, but
I'm not buying it.
He looked like his old self. And I honestly think the coaching is the biggest difference maker. If there's anything this is kind of a general take. If there's anything that I learned about this past season, it's how much coaching matters, especially with the Seahawks, the Patriots bringing in a defensive guy calling offensive plays. And then you have the Broncos here.
Yeah.
It just shows how much coaching matters in the NFL.
By the way, just so we're clear, right? Their last 3 games was a 51-14 blowout by the Rams on Christmas, 27-24 loss against the Chiefs, and then a 31-28 victory over the Chargers, who already had their playoff spot locked.
Okay, so then it was the last 2 games. It was a long time ago where I saw that, but
yes, but
he had a
now,
certain amount
Robert?
of.
Yeah, please. I just wanted to prove Adam wrong because he is usually wrong.
I'm not weighing in.
Yes.
He looks like his old self in the games where Nathaniel Hackett was fired.
Let the man speak.
Thank you, Robert. So here's the thing. And all 3 of us are at least in lockstep on the fact that the Raiders will finish last, because you went from Derek Carr to basically a more handsome but less good Derek Carr and Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jimmy Garoppolo for being mid.
Yeah. Congratulations. Maybe you'll get carried again this year.
Adam.
I'm not saluting.
All right, but that's all well and
Jimmy
good.
Garoppolo
That's
for
all
being
okay.
mid.
Oh, everyone, let's calm down. Here's the thing. The Chargers. Now they're an interesting team. I'm not entirely sold on that defense. Justin Herbert's good, but as you all know, if you've listened to the show, I'm not a huge Herbert fan. I'm not. I mean, until I see more, I will continue to view him as the next Matt Stafford. And also, when you combine that with the fact that Brandon Staley should have been out of a job 2 years ago, well, that's a bit of an issue.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, as long as they have Mahomes, they can never be counted out. But they're a very fragile team. And I've said this off camera, and I've said this umpteen times to everyone I know. If Travis Kelce goes down, they're screwed. I mean, Mahomes will always find a way, but it's the cupboard's looking pretty bare unless somebody like Kadarius Toney can just pull a Tyreek Hill level season out of where.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with Adam that the Broncos are the wild card, though. I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm just saying they're the wild card. However, I do agree with Robert that Russ was one of the big problems last year. As you know, I'm not a Nathaniel Hackett fan. But Russell Wilson did not try last season. He, and many people believed, and I believe as well, he got fat and happy. He was complacent. Like the fire was gone now that he got his big contract. But I think with Sean Payton and the season they had last year, and he knows that you can't just roll over and win kind of like you used to do in the NFC West when you were good. I think there's going to be a little bit of a fire. So I'm hoping for Russ's sake, it was just an attitude thing. I wouldn't exactly call him washed just yet. Although I will say, if he has another poor season this year, Denver's cooked.
Yeah.
So that being said, I definitely think it's Broncos or Kansas City. I lean Kansas City, but as you know, there's a lot of things that could play out. But if Russell Wilson can turn back the clock with Sean Payton, then it should be them. But KC, like I said, they're just a little too fragile for me. It's up in the air, but I lean KC.
All right. So I have the game logs for Russell Wilson in the last two games, the two games that Nathaniel Hackett was fired.
Mm-hmm.
So 6 touchdowns to 2 interceptions,
Mm-hmm.
6 total touchdowns to 2 interceptions,
Yeah.
nearly 600 total yards, a passer rating of in the 90s. And oh, by the way, they managed to dance with 2 playoff teams in those 2 games. They barely lost to Kansas City,
who already had their playoff
27-23.
spot locked.
They did, yes.
Yeah, but they still didn't have the number 1 seed locked yet. Then the Chargers,
Who already
Who
had
they
their
beat.
spot locked.
yeah, they beat the Chargers. Actually, they could have had a higher spot too. They had a spot locked. I'm just saying.
Also, Robert, I'm not saying I disagree, but wasn't one of the issues with the Chargers that they did have a playoff spot locked, but they tried to actually play hard and ended up losing Mike Williams?
Yes, that was one of the things.
I guess I'm not saying I disagree, but I'm just saying I want to add like a wee bit of clarity.
Yes. No, you're right. They
So
lost Mike
I mean,
Williams that
but to
game.
say that they weren't trying, I think is slightly incorrect.
But they were. Then you could switch it to them to saying that they're shorthanded. Okay.
You're just looking for excuses to not be wrong.
So kiss my you know what, CJ. All right.
Whoa,
say-
hey, whoa.
You can say ass on this show.
Oh, we can?
I
Oh,
already
well,
did.
I wish I
just
knew
didn't want
that.
to say it twice. All right. It's kind of like the pelvic thrust rule that we talked about beforehand.
Sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, but Russell Wilson looked like his old self in those 2 games. It is a small sample size, but I'm just saying, you take Nathaniel Hackett out, you put an interim head coach for 2 games, and he actually looks like that, and then you bring in Sean Payton, and you also fix that offensive line, and things are going to look a lot better. And I think I have Denver winning this division. It'll probably be close, and I can understand if you pick Kansas City, but it's one thing if you can do more with less, but if it's bottom of the barrel, like you don't have anything, then I have a hard time having you win that division. You'll still be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't doubt, like they're not going to be a bottom of the a cellar dwelling team, but Denver just has the talent. They fixed what they needed to fix, and I have them winning this division.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear, this city will throw a parade if they even make the playoffs. Okay.
Probably.
Because at the end of last year, at about week 15, 16, somewhere around there used to be a giant poster hanging off of Empower that was a picture of Justin Simmons and Russell Wilson that said Broncos country, let's ride. And they took it down at about week 15.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to move on. So we talked about top 5 pass rushers going into 2023. Now we asked you guys, who are the most underrated pass rushers going into next season, that's next. This is the Fumblerooski podcast.
Here's Edelman broken up, and the pass is no sign yet. Edelman comes down with a football. They're saying it's a catch. This is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Swings it way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown!
Welcome back to the Fumblerooski podcast. Adam Wright, CJ Medeiros, Robert Shelley with you tonight. We welcome you to the fan box portion of our show where we post a question filter on our Instagram every Monday, and you can respond with hot takes, questions, and more. We will discuss it and give you a shout out on our podcast. Respond to next week's fan box question to be featured on our show. So the question of the week was, who is the most underrated pass rusher heading into 2023? So to kick things off, Ian Mulhern said Azeez Ojulari. Yep. So the pass rusher for the Giants, he's solid, I guess. He's fine, but
He needs a breakout year, yes.
He's in need of a breakout year, but I wouldn't. Yeah, I guess underrated is the way you could go. I wouldn't say that he's a very good. Like I'm not thinking about Azeez Ojulari and thinking this guy is awesome. Why don't people mention him? Mm-hmm. He's good. He's all right. Cola DJ said Josh Sweat. So here's a good pick. Yes. This guy had 11 sacks last year, and he was an afterthought in that awesome Eagles secondary. Secondary.
Front seven.
Front seven. There you go.
We've been going secondary the past few weeks.
That's
yeah. But for an Eagles team that put up 70 sacks this past season, league leading by far, the next man up was the Chiefs at 55. I mean, yeah. There was plenty of wealth to go around on that Eagles defense. Too bad they lost a lot of those players, but they gained some of them back. So they did some good things, especially in the draft. Free agency, they did a few things too. Grayson Mortimer said Bud Dupree used to be elite, had a bit of a down year last year. I expect a rebound.
He's had a down year ever since he's been with the Titans.
That's what I'm thinking. Like he hasn't been the same since he left the Steelers. It's just correct, yes. I just think his age is getting to him. And the ACL tear that he had a couple of years back, that has certainly had an impact. And he hasn't really put up the sack numbers. I'm pretty sure he had 2 last year, 3 the year before that. Something like that, yeah. I mean, I want to believe that he can get back to where he was, but he hasn't been the same in quite a while. William Mantle said Carl Lawson and Bryce Huff. Clearly a Jets fan. And CJ actually confirms it. He knows him personally. Yeah. I mean, like, the Jets are a pretty good pass rushing team. And these guys individually aren't great. So Lawson has 7, and I believe Huff had about 5.5, 4.5, somewhere around there. So like they're not great individually, but you can see how the Jets as a team, as a collective unit, can get to the quarterback. It's not always the same guy getting there. You don't have the Nick Bosa's and TJ Watts of the world where it's always them. You got a game plan. Opposing offenses have to game plan for that one guy. The Jets have a bunch of guys. But they're not exactly the Eagles, but they're 7th in all of football in team sacks. So, I mean, that says something. Stephen Parker says DJ Reader. The problem is he's not a pass rusher.
Yeah.
And CJ and I were talking off camera on about the show.
No, this is
we
before
should've
you got
made-
here, Robert.
Maybe
You
we
joined
should've-
us
Left
after.
out.
Maybe we should have made another week where we rank
Inside
the top
guys.
5 inside linebackers, the fat inside linebackers,
Nose tackles.
nose tackles,
The
Uh,
3
interior
techs, the 5
linemen,
techs of the world.
fat guys.
We called them something else earlier that we can't say online.
No, we did. You did.
Yes.
I just
we
said
all
fat
did.
guys.
Okay, we all saluted them.
I just kind of
You just said fat guys,
and weren't
That's
paying,
not
I
what I
wasn't
said.
paying attention, but it's all right.
big guys who can snap you in half like a twig.
Mm,
We'll
Those
also
guys.
eat an entire pizza by themselves.
based.
Yep. I wish I can do that, but it's
I
not
can
good.
do that.
Not
too.
great for your health.
2 full pizzas by themselves. I should
Good
say.
for if you want to play offensive lineman or interior D lineman, but I'm neither
for
of
the
those. So I'm just trying to watch what
Hmm.
I eat. Owen Vanslack said Jalen Phillips, who I would say is pretty underrated.
Yes.
7 sacks this past year,
Absolutely.
8.5 his rookie year. This is a guy who's this is a good pick. It's a good pick. And he's young too. So he could only get better from here. He could, for all we know, he could be one of the elites in the next couple of years. And maybe we still won't know his name, but the Dolphins just need to make themselves relevant again. Patrick Williver said people forget about DeMarcus Lawrence. And I would say,
Patrick, the OG.
we've forgotten about him in the sense that he once was one of the best he was one of the best edge rushers in football. But now he's still good. We're forgetting about him, but that's only because he's not really Micah Parsons is the guy in that defense now. He's the guy who's getting to the quarterback. It's no longer DeMarcus Lawrence. He's a good player. He's helping them, but he's not. He's not the guy. He's not a Nick Bosa or a TJ Watt anymore. He just isn't.
Mhm.
Or a Myles Garrett, who's the number 1 going into next year. And then
I'm gonna
Owen
fight him.
Vanslack had another response saying Sam Hubbard.
Which I can agree with. I can agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Underrated, not the number 1 guy on the defensive line over there.
It's kind of the same it's the same trend with that entire Bengals defense. Everyone's underrated.
Yes.
Look at their whole secondary. So this is a little off top. Look at their secondary just to prove the point. Chidobe Awuzie, Mike Hilton, the other guy, Cam Taylor-Britt, and then Dax Hill in your safeties, and then Nick Scott. That's a pretty good secondary. Those are your starters.
Jesse Bates, or did he leave?
No, Jesse Bates
gone.
went to the Falcons.
I forgot
He's a
about that.
Falcon.
Yes, you're right.
He's a Falcon. That defense does look good for the Falcons, though.
The Falcons got some respect this offseason. They spent money to make money. I'll say that.
Yep. Then you got Trey Hendrickson on one side, Sam Hubbard on another. And Hubbard is underrated because Hendrickson is the guy there. He's probably the closest thing to a superstar that the Bengals have on that defensive side of the ball, because they don't have any sexy names, if you will, but they have some very good players who as a collective unit make this Bengals team actually, as on the defensive side, actually pretty good.
Yes.
It's a Super Bowl winning defense. It's a defense that will help win a Super Bowl.
Yes.
Yeah. So there you go and they have DJ Reader too. Who's a very good run stuffer. Logan
Yes.
Wilson. I can name Bengals all season.
There's a reason they made
All
the Super
time.
Bowl just a few years ago.
Yeah, that's true.
There's
Yeah.
a reason.
And why they might be Super Bowl champions this year.
Might be.
Might be. Floodster Sports Zone said, and I'm sorry for the pronunciation in advance. Fularunzo Fatakasi. Now, here's another one who's an interior defensive lineman. And he might be a very good interior D lineman, but he doesn't get to the quarterback in the same way DJ Reader doesn't. They're both good at their positions, but they're not really edge rushers. They're just good defensive linemen, right? So they're good players you're naming, but it's just, I mean, we figured that that people would probably have issues with the pass rushers category, because some players, like it's just a confusing position, because you can rush the passer as a safety. I mean, you got Blitz Boy over there in Seattle. All right. Josh Hool said Brian Burns isn't mentioned enough. I agree.
Notice that hasn't been a theme.
I agree. And if he wasn't on the Panthers, I think this guy would be pretty good. Well, he still is good. I mean, he would be mentioned more. And he was in my top 5. So there you go. Daniel Blaziak said the entire Jets D-line. So as we said, as a collective unit, this team is effective.
Yeah.
They just don't have that one guy who is the double-digit sack guy. Everyone has to game plan for him, besides kind of Quinn and Williams. They have a really good team. They have a really good defense around them, and that defense is going to be elite next year. Brian Mucker said Daniil Hunter.
Yeah.
And I would agree. He's
hurt a lot, but he's good.
He's hurt a lot, but when he's healthy, I mean, that guy can play.
And apparently Adam thinks he's on the Browns now.
Yeah.
I messed it up. I'm sorry.
I know. I'm just playing.
I meant Zadarius Smith. I get those two mixed up because they're both badass defensive players on the Vikings.
Yep.
Well, one was. Yeah, one left, but Nate Merwitz. This was a really good one. I liked this one. Nate Merowitz said Alex Highsmith, another very overlooked 3-4 outside linebacker who produced well even without Watt. Alex Highsmith, 14.5 sacks this past season in the absence of TJ Watt. This guy is good. He's been in the league a few years with the Steelers, but it took Watt's absence for him to really break out, which could be looked at as a red flag, but we're not going to do that. We won't do that. You know why? Because sometimes it takes some reps in the NFL to kind of figure things out. You got to figure it out. And he did. And now you have Watt and Highsmith on opposite sides, which is going to make for a really good Steelers defense.
Yep.
For our last response, Eli Turner said Baron Browning. And he's technically in here's where the pass rusher position gets complicated, because he's technically considered an off-ball linebacker, but he got to the quarterback 5 times. He sacked him 5 times, and he had 12 tackles for loss. So he's doing something right in the pass rushing category. Just he's been used off ball. He happens to get a lot of sacks. He gets to the quarterback. He's a good defensive player. And one could even say that he's a hybrid, right? He can do a lot of good things, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. It's not the only. There's a lot of good things you can do on the defensive side of the ball that isn't getting to the quarterback, and he happens to do that. So we could call him a jack of all trades, if you will.
Yeah.
Right, one of those guys. All right. Well, that is all for our responses and all for our content. But do you guys have any other thoughts before we end the show tonight?
If you don't mind extending the episode about 3 more minutes, I have one more piece of content we could.
Jesus, we're already just under an hour. This is the longest episode we have had in 4 months.
In a minute. So it'll be quick. All right.
Yep.
So we are going to see how fraudulent of NFL fans you two are.
Oh, Jesus.
It's kind of. But we're going to go back to the year 2016. Think about it for a second. Think it over.
Yes.
You are going to name me, as a collective unit, the top 10 highest jersey sales of 2016.
What the? In what way does this talk about if we're frauds? I don't know the top 10 highest selling jerseys now, because it doesn't matter.
We're
gonna see how many y'all know.
All right. I'll play your game.
You'll get 2 hints.
Doesn't it also vary? Like there's some players who aren't even actually that talented. They're just topping jersey sales.
All of these top 10 guys were talented at the time.
Yeah, wait, hold up. So this is the 2016 season, correct?
2016 season.
Year of Super Bowl 51, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
We have just eclipsed an hour on our show.
Yes.
Yes, I can tell, Adam.
All right. Who's gonna say?
No, Adam. If you don't want to, I'll go.
I'll go 2. We'll as a collective unit, he said.
Yeah.
So the
All right.
two of us are
Collective
gonna.
unit.
We need.
All right. Let's.
I bet
do
Tuck
this.
would be good at this too.
Tuck-
Oh,
I'm
Tuck.
missing
Well,
Tuck.
yeah, Tuck would know.
All right.
All right, Matt.
Were they good? So were these players good during 2016?
Yeah.
9 out of the 10.
Oh,
9
Christ.
out
The
of
other
10,
one you'll be
okay.
able to get if you remember.
Okay. I'm
You get
thinking
2
Tom
hits.
Brady, of course.
Tom Brady is number 3.
Oh wait, Matt Ryan was up there, I assume.
Matt Ryan is not.
Oh, okay, then Julio.
Julio Jones was like number 15.
Wait, what? Okay,
What?
what about Zeke? That was Zeke's rookie year. He took the league by storm.
Ezekiel Elliott is number 1.
How'd you even
Okay.
come up with this? Like you agreed to come onto our show like 10 minutes ago.
I came up with this like 5 minutes ago.
Okay, wait, was Dak there too? He was like offensive rookie of the year.
All right, so CJ is hard carrying right now. Dak is number 2.
Rodgers, would he be up there because he? Oh, dang.
I'm trying to think.
Let's see who else.
I should have given you guys a 3-strike limit, but
Oh well.
we'll go with
I know,
Antonio
yeah, you
Brown because Steelers and killer. bees.
Antonio Brown is number 7.
Okay.
What year was Juju Smith-Schuster?
No, he wasn't in the league yet.
He wasn't in the league yet. Okay.
I want to say that was the year after where he was drafted.
Usually there's some cocky corner every year who gets jersey
Yeah.
sales. I'm trying to think.
No, this was before
in terms of
Jacksonville, so-
corners on this list,
Yeah.
corners, there are 0 corners on this list.
Okay.
Corners. Let me know when you want to use a hint.
I'm shocked Matt Ryan wasn't on there. Like, was Russ on there at all?
Russell Wilson is number 10.
Haha.
Oh. Okay. Oh, 2016.
Yes, 2016. We've been
Des
over
Bryant.
this. No,
That is a good guess. Des Bryant is number 11.
no.
Mother.
Oh, easy there. Wait, Gronk for some reason, maybe.
Gronk.
CJ is still carrying. Gronk is number 6.
Mm-hmm.
All
You
right.
better thank this man after the show.
I know.
He's making you
I
not look
haven't-
bad at him.
No. It's cool. It's cool.
So we have
Wait, hold on. Wait, it was still Steelers.
Give me-
Le'Veon Bell.
Oh, I was about to say Le'Veon Bell.
Sorry.
incorrect. Le'Veon
No, he
Bell
wasn't there.
was
I was wrong.
21.
Okay. I'm trying to think of all the.
Listen,
Jeez.
you have.
We're
all
going
right,
back like 7 years right
What about
now.
Vic
This is back
Beasley? Because he was the defensive player of the year.
No.
Oh
have-
my!
You have 1 defensive player, a linebacker. You have 2 quarterbacks and a wideout. What
2
major
quarterbacks.
play happened in 2016 for a wideout to make them famous? Or this might not have been in 2016, but around that time, what wide receiver became famous because of 1 play?
Julian Edelman.
Incorrect. Good guess. but
Tyreek Hill.
No.
Wait, hold on. Was
play.
Kelsey on there?
Stephon Diggs? Oh no,
No,
That
no.
was a couple years later.
Michael Thomas.
Actually, the following year, Stephon Diggs.
This is sad.
Jeez.
yeah,
sad.
I hear that.
All right.
Was it? Oh, Hopkins.
No.
Wait, was that?
The catch that every kid tried to impersonate.
Oh, Odell Beckham.
Odell is number 4. Yes.
Oh, I forgot
Oh,
he
there you-
existed.
Yeah.
We
I
have
keep forgetting.
2 we have 2 quarterbacks. One was a borderline MVP for like the first 5 weeks.
Oh,
of the
Derek
2016
Carr.
season. Thank you, Derek Carr.
Wait, Khalil Mack, was he there too? Because he was
Khalil Mack, no.
Oh, I
Another
forgot Derek
linebacker.
Carr.
Another great linebacker.
Oh.
Signed a
Who's
giant, massive deal in the past couple of years.
past couple
it's-
years?
No, either last year. or
Von
2 years.
Miller?
Von Miller's number 9.
Oh, okay. That's,
The last
There we
guy is
go.
the
I
one
got
guy.
huh?
The last guy is a guy who sucked but was a MVP candidate in 17, 18, 19. But if you think about him now, you don't want him anywhere close to your team, and he's not old.
Carson Wentz?
Number
No,
5.
Wentz
Carson
wasn't
Wentz.
drafted yet.
No.
Carson Wentz was number 5. That was his,
Hey.
that was his rookie year, I believe, 2016.
Yeah. Yes, it was because he was the same year as Dak.
Yeah, he was same year as the goofball.
Who is this again?
Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz. I said it.
So Wentz was in 16.
Yep.
Yeah, because he was drafted. He was in the league already. Yeah, because
Yeah.
he was drafted
It was his rookie
in
year.
16. It was his rookie year. He was up there in sales.
Yep. Some honorable mentions just to round it out. 11 through 15 were Dez, Jason Witten, Aaron Rodgers, Khalil Mack, and Julio Jones.
Okay.
I carried, though. We want to point that out.
That's an understatement. Okay.
Thank you, Rob.
That's an
Thank you.
understatement.
Very
You got 9 out of 10. Adam was just hopping on the back for the ride, you know? All right.
All right.
All right.
There we go. All
Show's
right.
over.
He got that out of his system. We're done with that. Him and
Hey,
his
that was good content. Don't
trivias.
start with me.
Yeah.
All right. Not as good as top 5 at each skill position in division.
All right, come on
previews,
now.
But, and fan box that we created ourselves.
You did not. That started with my show. That was Ari's idea. Put some respect on his name.
Nope.
I don't have a horse in this race.
That'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. We have new episodes out on Tuesdays and Fridays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have all our episodes available on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and so much more. Also, be sure to follow our Instagram, Fumblerooski_podcast, to keep up with our podcast and latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Over and out.